The question isn't who is under the mask in Scream 7, because let's be honest, it's usually the person with the least amount of screen time and the most convenient grudge. The real question is, why did Kevin Williamson decide to burn down the franchise's literal and figurative foundation just to deliver a motive that makes Scream 3 look like Citizen Kane? Scream 7 is a cynical, AI-obsessed mess that tries to weaponize nostalgia while simultaneously spitting on it. By torching the Macher house in the first 10 minutes and replacing the actual character development with literal deepfakes, the film proves it has nothing left to say about the slasher genre other than, remember the 90s? It's lazy, it's structurally flimsy, and it's officially the point where the meta-commentary has folded so far on itself that it disappeared up its own stab franchise. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it, or don't. Honestly, your blood pressure will thank you. So full spoilers ahead. We start where it all began. 13212 Fowler Lane, but Kevin Williamson isn't interested in a slow burn. He turns the iconic Macher house into a Stu Macher Experience Airbnb. This is the film's first and perhaps only clever bit of meta-commentary. It's a direct shot at the real-life horror tourism of Tamales, California. Jimmy Tatro and Michelle Randolph played the ultimate tourist victim. Their deaths are pure fan service. Williamson finally gets his chandelier kill, a sequence he's been sitting on since 1996. But look at the walls. The film is checking boxes. It's telling you, we know the lore, right before it pours gasoline on the whole thing. Burning the Macher house to the ground isn't just a plot point, it's a desperate attempt to force Sidney into a new setting, Pine Grove, because the writers realized they couldn't keep milking the same hallway for 30 years. It's a symbolic reset that feels more like a creative bankruptcy filing. Once we move to Pine Grove, the clues start dropping with the subtlety of a Gallagher show. We meet Jessica Bowden, played by Anna Camp, the sweet neighbor. In any other franchise, she's a background extra. In Scream, she's a neon flashing light. I'm the killer. The red herrings and the real threats are Carl Alan Gibbs, the creepy coffee guy. He's too obvious. He's the patsy, a role the franchise loves because it saves the writers from having to actually develop the real killer's physical prowess. When Sidney and Gail visit the psychiatric hospital, we meet Marco, played by Ethan Embry. And you know, if Ethan Embry shows up out of nowhere for one scene, it makes it pretty obvious, right? The film tries to play with Sidney's trauma by introducing the Stu Macher is alive theory via Marco. It's a cruel tease for the hardcore theorist who has spent decades arguing about the television sets and head trauma. But the movie isn't building a mystery, it's building a distraction. The biggest clue people missed, Jessica Bowden mentioned Sidney's book, Out of Darkness. This isn't just a neighbor being supportive, it's a callback to Jill Roberts' era of fame by proxy. The moment the character starts quoting a protagonist's self-help book, you should probably check their basement for a shrine and a hunting knife. But instead of a clever mystery, we get the little Latte abduction. The logistics are stupid character logic at its peak. How does a suburban neighbor manage a multi-state conspiracy with a mental patient and a Google security geek without anyone noticing a suspicious amount of black polyester arriving via Amazon Prime? The structural choice here revealing Carl early is a fake out, intended to make us think the real Ghostface is something grander. Instead, it's just leading us to a garage fight we've seen 6 times before. The third act of Scream 7 isn't a climax, it's a technical support ticket gone horribly wrong. After Tatum is snatched from the little Latte, which, by the way, is the most generic slasher location name since the stabbing shed, we get the homecoming. The mechanics here are pure stupid character logic. Marco, the orderly from Fallbrook, isn't just a guy who hands out meds. He's a former Google security specialist. This is how the movie explains away the returns of Stu Macher and Nancy Loomis and Roman Bridger. It's not Ghost, it's high-end Snapchat filter, I guess. And then that's from the Council of Ghostfaces scene, which, oh my god. Marco uses AI to simulate Sidney's dead friends and enemies. This is the film's lowest point. It's a thematic betrayal. Scream has always been about the physical reality of the knife in the dark. By turning the legacy characters into digital puppets, the movie robs Sidney of a real confrontation with her past and replaces it with a glitchy Zoom call from hell. And then there's the unmaskings. We get the triple threat reveal. First is Carl, he's a dead guy at the 30-minute mark. Then there's Marco, and finally, the mastermind, Jessica Bowden. Jessica's motives here is where the script's foundation completely cracks. She claims Sidney's book, Out of Darkness, inspired her to kill her abusive husband. She's a dark mirror of Sidney, a survivor who took the wrong lessons from the trauma. She wanted Sidney to stay in the spotlight, but when Sid went into hiding after the events of Scream 6, Jessica snapped. The logic of the garage fight is a mess. Mark Kincaid survives being turned into a human pincushion, and Tatum, Sidney's daughter, is forced into the final girl role. The choice here is purely cyclical. Jessica wants to kill Sidney in front of Tatum to restart the Maureen Prescott cycle. But Sidney isn't playing. She kills Marco with a single efficient headshot. Then in the garage, a direct homage to the original Tatum's death, she and her daughter turn Jessica into a lead-filled colander. Sidney's line, "Past my prime, fuck you," is a meta jab at the critics who said Neve Campbell was too old for the franchise. It's cathartic, sure, but it feels like it belongs in a better movie. And my atomic theory is that the deepfakes weren't for Sidney, they were for the audience. Think about it, Marco and Jessica are obsessed with the cycle. By using AI to bring back Stu and Dewey, they aren't just tormenting Sidney, they are commenting on the franchise's inability to move on. There is a theory circulating that Marco's claim about a John Doe in the mental hospital was actually true, and the deepfakes was a cover-up for the real Stu Macher. Let the internet theories continue. If Stu is actually the one who funded Jessica and Marco, it would explain how a suburban neighbor and an orderly afford high-end AI servers and a private militia of Ghostfaces. If this is a setup for Scream 8, then Scream 7 is just one long, expensive trailer. What about the what if? Rumors suggest an alternate ending where Tatum actually did die, pushing Sidney into full-blown villain arc for the sequel. Instead, we got the happy family ending where Chad and Mindy survive another stabbing. At this point, these two have more scar tissue than actual skin. But was the ending earned? No. The film spends 2 acts teasing a grand conspiracy of a legendary return, Stu, only to reveal it was the neighbor you saw once and the IT guy. It's the Scooby-Doo ending of slasher movies. It plays fair with the clues, but the clues themselves are boring. There's probably some satisfaction to be made. I mean, the cheap thrill, watching Sidney and Tatum go John Wick on a killer, is kind of fun, I guess, and silly. Maybe doesn't fit the Scream franchise. It probably fits Scary Movie more than Scream, but the emotional weight is non-existent. The use of Dewey's likeness is kind of lazy and, narratively hollow, I think. Scream 7 tries to burn down the house and build something new, but it ends up just standing in the ashes, holding a smartphone and crying for attention. If you want to see how we got into this mess, watch my review right here by my head, and here's another video YouTube thinks you'll like. And I'll see you next time.